Have you been doing much of writing about over COVID?
No. we were kind of thinking about this because, like, I think I kind of feel like a combination of things has made cycling really hard for us. One, we don't cycle for enjoyment, if that makes like, we enjoy cycling, but like cycling for us, it's like you don't voluntarily ride the bus for fun. And like for us, it's like a way of getting some.
Why? You live in London. The bus is so funny.
I mean, like the only times I voluntarily
go anywhere they say
for transport is when like you don't have somewhere to sit when you're a teenager and you're just like, yeah, let's just ride the bus. This is fine. Like this is our space now. But yeah, so like we cycle for transport. So like I've been commuting to my volunteer shift once a week, and like I tried doing like a laps of the estate, but I think we're so anxious at the moment, and that makes getting outside really difficult. I think especially for you. Yeah. And then for me, like my anxiety makes it a lot harder to like process things fast enough to cycle safely. And it's something that I'm really conscious of, that like not only do I have to like process like visual information and like physical information, but I also have to like process very like new social situations with rules that keep changing. And like people who have complete different interpretations of it and like want to get aggressively close to you or like comically far away, and you're just like, and it just feels like this big barrier to getting out for fun on our bikes.
Right. We had so many hopes at the beginning of this, because we quite often in the summer would do this thing where like late at night.
Your book did make us get a bike.
Hey!
We haven't fixed it yet, but we got it.
Yeah, our friend needed to get rid of a bike, and we were like, I was like, yes. And it's really great because it looks like the kind of bike I wasn't allowed as a kid.
It's like a 12-year-old boy's bike, but like,
and I'm so excited about it.
Fast,
amazing.
It looks fast and it's bright blue. Yeah, it's really great.
We'll have to send you some like flame stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really great. Anyway,
but also you're right. I've seen more people cycling than I've ever seen. I think. Even rollerblading, like who's cracking out the rollerblades?
So cool. So at the moment I'm working at Fife College, like, and my job's my job was to start with promoting cycling, like with students and staff like to and from campus, but then obviously campus shut, so my role's kind of like very different now. But like Dunfermline, where one of the campuses is, saw a 200% increase in cycling in the last like few months, and Kirkcaldy saw a 30% increase, and I was sort of like, can I say this was me? Like, can I claim?
Yes, I single-handedly.
I had this gnarly poster campaign, and it just took off. Like, I really just like have changed the whole landscape of active travel in Fife. Like, what can I say? Like, but I don't think they'd let it fly, to be honest with you. I think they'd probably call me out on it and be like, was there any other factors? And I'd have to be like,
no pandemic, no.
Bikes got really good.
Yeah,
people just really wanted those bikes.
I'd be like, there was one other factor actually. I published a book about
an odd question I won't understand the answer to, but do either of you have a favourite bike?
Yeah, the bike I rode for the tour that we wrote the book about was a beautiful Dawes Sterling, and it was just this, I think it was purplish, purple bluish. I know we argue about whether it's purple or blue. But it was just gorgeous, and it rode really well, though it was slightly too small for me, so I don't actually know how I managed to get all the way to Montpellier on it. And then when we started the second tour, I was like, it'll be fine, it's still a bit small, but I'll give it a go. And we got to Falkirk, and the bottom bracket completely seized on it.
The bottom bracket's like the bit that the pedals go through, so like,
and it's unfixable when that happens. And so we we ended up walking to a campsite to stay in.
We had to like push our bikes along the canal and to this campsite.
And then we had to get a train to Glasgow where we fixed it up at Bikes for Good, which is
we didn't even fix it up at Bikes for Good. We walked into Bikes for Good. We were staying in Partick with a friend of ours. We wheeled Abby's bike into Bikes for Good, and we're just like, we're on a cycle tour. We literally left 2 days ago, and Abby's bike has like packed it in. And it was great because like the guy working there found us another steel framed mountain bike, and then we were able to use their like DIY workshop and the like volunteers helping there to like broke down Abby's old bike completely and moved all the parts onto the new bike and set
amazing.
literally in an afternoon, and walked out of there with like all the old parts of your bike and a new functioning touring bike.
Yeah, but the frame is still in Glasgow with a friend, and I can't wait to get it because I'm definitely gonna put it up on the wall. I think is the plan.
Oh,
that's nice.
That's lovely. Also, Bike for Good. We have huge love for them. They do so many wonderful things.
Good. Yeah, their south side places like end of the street from where we are now, which is nice. Yeah, it gives me much joy to walk past there.
Yes,
they're super cool, and it just like we'd have such a rubbish time. Like
it started snowing as well.
And it was hailing. Yeah, we were just like, what are we doing? Cycle tour in April, they said. Cycle tour Scotland, they said. What is this?
Yeah.
We'd had this just like catastrophe, and like we just were feeling so rubbish and like so kind of like stuck because like your bike was kind of a fundamental tool of the bike touring plan.
Yeah, strangely.
So it just felt amazing to like it just got sorted in an afternoon, and like good. And it was good for you as well, I think, because like after the last tour I went and did like a proper bike mechanic qualification and like really cemented my like bike knowledge, but you hadn't had the chance to do that. So like what you'd learned, you kind of learned from me or like tinkering. But the process of like breaking down your old bike and then being supported, like, and the volunteers were just super helpful, being supported to like.
Well, they allowed me to do it all by myself, basically, apart from the few, and they helped by showing me what to do. And then if there was something that I was struggling with, they would give me a hand. But it was very much they wanted me to do it, which I think you don't usually get at bike shops in general.
Totally. Well, I think also sometimes the experience of like walking into a workshop or like a bike mechanic-y place as someone who's like a woman or like who's read as a woman can be kind of like a bit stressful and maybe a bit, I don't know, you just kind of feel like people want to do stuff for you, like and that can be quite frustrating because you're just like I learned to do this myself, and like because we have kind of the experience of the tour, but I think people often look at us, and especially I think you, because you're fat, I think people look at you and think like there's no way that like you have this kind of experience or like body of knowledge that you do. And that can be really frustrating
all the time,
for both of us, the assumptions that people make when we walk into spaces about like our knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
So it's just like super nice to walk into a space and just feel like people were listening to us when we said what we were able to do or not do, and wanted to like facilitate and like help us to do something rather than like do something for us.
We actually found it in all the bike shops we ended up in along the route as well.
Yeah, like we've had some really nice experience in bike shops actually, like on the way.
Can I tell you my favourite bit in the book? Is when you go to the camping shop to get a roll. And Abby lets you not buy one. Even though fully aware that you're going to want one. And nothing has like been a more perfect representation of parts of our relationship than that, where I will not buy a luxury that I need. Right. I will struggle. And you're like, okay. Cool, just gonna wait. And I was like, oh, someone else.
It's quite funny when like that stuff, when you see that kind of thing, just I don't know, just stated when someone else, like it's quite I guess it's that thing of being like, oh, like this is not just a very specific thing that it's like actually it's very, I guess, like queer. Or just like in a way, like it feels very like freeing to like let go of worry about like is that you know, and then you see it and it's just like, oh, actually it's really, which actually is why I think your book's really important, because you've got all these little moments that are very, like in some ways they're very like ordinary interactions between you two, and that there's something so like extraordinary in the way that they've been then put together and put out in the world for other people to kind of interact with or engage or reflect with. And I think it's just really kind of important and a really wonderful thing for you to kind of give to the community as well. So I guess like thank you for that, for like putting all your honesty and everything into the book, because it's a proper joy to read,
and it's an absolute joy, and it just it glows with authenticity, and like it also makes you realize like, oh, representation, we've not had this representation before, so it's quite groundbreaking.
Oh, thanks.
We were really learning how to be in a relationship with each other when we went on that first tour, and how not to panic about the way our relationship maybe didn't look like the relationships that were like considered kind of like healthy. I think both of us were really concerned with notions of being like overly dependent on each other, or like kind of that like kind of codependent U-Haul-y stereotype. And I think like what we kind of learned was that actually like, and it's kind of what we learned partly on the tour but also in our lives alongside it, was that like it was this kind of relationship of like interdependence.
I think in the book you can really see our relationship going on a bit of a journey as we are cycling.
I eventually bought the map.
You did eventually buy it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Charlotte finally got like noise cancelling headphones, which
took me 31 years.
The different types of queer relationships don't get articulated, and you have articulated something that I think hasn't been put in a book before, and that's really important, and I think a really great thing, especially for younger queers to read, because I think there is this bit of like you're brought up with all these examples of like straight relationships, and then there's this like little bubble of like really cute young adult romance, but again it's like perfect romance of like you will perfectly meet on a Ferris wheel, and I'm here for that stuff, beautiful, cute. But it's like your relationships are not always you're not gonna have this like
we've never been on a
perfect,
Ferris
cute
wheel. Are we even in a relationship? Yes.
But yeah, I think it's just really important to kind of show that like there's so many different like ways of being in relationships as well.
But also we're big fans of the working together, bigger than a sum of parts thingamajigs. That's why we couldn't have done the shop without the other one.
Very true.
And because you can't keep that much of information in one head, so you can do so much more with someone else.
It's like a whole extra brain.
Oh, that's a good question. Would you have written the book without one another?
Just one.
I don't think either of us would have felt comfortable making ourselves so vulnerable. I don't think either of us would, I mean, we wouldn't have gone on a tour without each other.
No.
I don't think either of us would have seen through like such an extended project. Like the book took like 2 years to write, basically. Yeah. A bit more than 2 years. And was like a really steep learning process, especially in terms of editing, which we sent off. There's like a photo I took and was like, so it was taken on an Instax camera at Kangas, which is like the coffee house in Kirkcaldy that we wrote a lot of the book in. And like they'd taken a photo of us when we started writing, and then they took a photo of us when we finished writing, the full 90,000 words, and we sent that in, and we were like, job done, book written. Like little did we know that like our editor was to like come back to us and be like, actually you might need to like rewrite or change these bits. And the editing process actually, like we left for the cycle tour midway through it.
We wrote the first maybe 20 chapters, didn't we?
Yeah.
Completely.
We stopped in Cambridge for a month, we stopped in Budapest for a month. We were just like, we woefully underestimated quite how much work this was, and like what that process was like. And I don't think we could have done that separately, because it was such like a steep learning curve.
Oh, it was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've done, I think. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
My last question then is, what's harder, writing or cycling?
So can I choose a third option that wasn't given?
Yes.
So I think publishing is harder than both writing and cycling. And because I think also like we were so used to making zines before the book, and actually thinking about like who we wrote for and how we wrote. So much of how we wrote was informed by how we write zines, and zines are like really in a much more like controlled distribution and like so much more grounded in like your community, that like suddenly launching something into the world is just like truly, so that's been the hardest part of it. Like it's been hugely rewarding, it's like super exciting, and I'm not gonna like pretend that it's not. And it's also like a huge privilege, and we're super lucky to get the opportunity, but it's definitely the scariest part of the whole thing.
But I wonder as well if that's because it's not over yet. Like I think with cycling it's really hard work, but then you usually get that like either build up of like endorphins from doing the cycling, so you're feeling really good about it, or you get an amazing downhill, some amazing scenery, and so it's all kind of worth it for that. And with writing, it's a similar thing. The writing is hard, but once you've done it, you feel like a good sense of like, oh, I've done this, I'm getting there. And publishing, we haven't actually published it yet, so maybe actually when it's out in the world, we're going to start feeling a bit less benefits of a bit less anxious and stressed about it. So.
Is there anything else you would like to make sure you say? I mean, other than buy this book, it's absolutely brilliant.
It's out on the 4th.
Well, today, because we're going to be showing
it of course,
today.
Yeah, okay.
But people can buy it through you, presumably?
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can.
Send us an email.
And we will sell you a book.
Yes. Email category is books@gmail.com. Also, people can still buy this, they can get this book using the Solidarity Fund. If they do not have the pennies to buy the book, there's a prepaid fund, so people can actually still get the book. You still get paid as people who wrote the book, but it means someone basically already paid for the book for them. So if someone wants to use that book code Solidarity, and
get reading and cycling.